to my dear African people out there, specifically the parents. Delay on buying that very, very, very big home and spend more time in that apartment, wherever you're staying, to save your money and raise your kids, because it's too early for you to move into that big house. What usually happens when you move into that big house is that your husband has to work extra hours, the wife has to work extra hours to meet up with that mortgage. And so for that reason, you neglect your children, and the streets raise your kids, the society raises your kids, and you cannot spend time with your kids. So please, spend more time with your kids.
You want to see Kelele? Roll up my weed, let me be Kelele. As I spend my money.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to your favorite podcast, Bitter Leaf and Banter. I'm your host, Awa, aka Fine Girl. This is Call Me Tazi, aka Tazi. Tazi, say hi to the people.
Hello, people. Hello, people. Hello, people. Today's a great day for Tazi, you know, just the smoothest guy in the DMV. You get me?
Absolutely. All right, so we'll get right started. So today we are going to be talking about one of my favorite topics. African parents.
African parents. Okay.
Yeah, this one, we have to get this one done soon and early because...
Nah, it's one of my favorite topics too.
All right, so first, we want to kind of start off by talking about our parents and just the differences in their experiences. I mean, as I say this too, it's like, it's also based on what you know, because, you know, your parents, you learn about them through other people, you learn about them through, you know, you meet different family members, you learn different stories about your parents, and you kind of just piece it together to understand their journey, you know, and like who they are.
Correct.
So I'll speak for my parents as far as what I know. So my parents are both Cameroonian. They came to the US, I think, in the 80s, late 70s, 80s. My father, I believe, went to college in Alabama.
Okay.
My mother lived in Texas. You know, they knew each other. But when they came, they were by themselves. They maybe had a few friends, but like they didn't really have big communities to rely on. So they relied on each other. They relied on other family members around the country. Both of my parents went to school here. They raised my siblings and I. They had a lot of kids, y'all. Yeah, they had a lot of kids.
Hey, yo.
That was a lot of kids.
Shout out to Pa. Shout out to Pa.
They did that because not that I can do that. I'm like, hold on.
Shout out to Pa.
Hold on. I'm like, this is around the time my mama started poom, 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 poom. They had a lot of kids, okay?
I'm sure.
And, you know, they raised us and they gave us everything we needed. We are successful people. We're educated. Like, they did that. All five.
Y'all see her
10 out of
shades.
10, knocked it out the park.
Y'all see her shades, right? Y'all see the earrings, right? Y'all see the background, right?
I can't stand it, eh?
Y'all see the skin complexion, right? All
I
right.
look good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Continue along.
Yes. But that's really like my parents. I will say, like, I feel like the one thing that I'm always so like the thing I admire about them is that they came here to get their education, because that takes like language barriers, that takes money. Just me going to college, like I'm a citizen. I grew up in the U.S. system. That was hard to do.
Correct.
So coming from overseas and getting to it, all my respect. Okay, that's my your turn.
Yep. As far as I'm concerned, like for myself, you know, my father, he's a historian. So he told me the stories and like the sub stories in the sub stories about everything that happened. But I'm gonna say the story from my recollection. My grandfather was not confident in who if whether my father was going to get married to a woman from his tribe. So the story goes, and Daddy, please forgive me if this is not the right story. The story goes is on market day in Azee marketplace, my dad went to the market and he saw my mom and told my mom that she was beautiful and told my mom that he wanted to marry her. And my mom told him, go and talk to my father. My father is Mbe Glass, who lives in Nje. Nje is about a 2-hour walk from my father's village. And so my father, he had received a scholarship to go to study in France. To study in Paris, um, from Cameroon. And my grandfather he was kind of getting the jitters, like, my son gonna meet a white woman and marry a white woman, and he gonna start acting weird, and my culture's just gonna die out. Nah, if I'm being totally honest. So
Oh, the grandparents be scared.
so scared. And we're talking about, this is the 70s. You feel
70s,
me?
yeah,
This is the
literally.
1970s. So my dad, knowing that, was like, let me make my father proud. He coincidentally fell in love with my mother, told my father about it, and for the people like wondering, how can you fall in love so fast? It wasn't no social media. It wasn't that many options. You fall in love with the person in your hood.
In your neighborhood.
That's it.
Down the street.
And it's gonna be
That's
love
my
at first
parents
sight.
down the
Jay-Z
street.
and Beyonce. Jay-Z, love at first sight, you know?
Exactly.
So my grandfather with my father went to my mother's village. They did the traditional rites. They told my father the bride price and everything. They moved to the no, they did not move to the United States at first. My father went to school in France, studied linguistics, and then got another scholarship. At that time, Cameroon was giving scholarships out like it was nothing. He got a scholarship now to study in Université de Montréal. That's the University of Montreal. From Montreal, he sent for my mother to come to Canada and meet him in Canada. And I may get this wrong, but apparently, I don't know if my mother got pregnant in Canada or pregnant in the United States, but she was pregnant somewhere between either Canada or the United States. And my brother was born with a disability, and we needed some special reasoning as to why why Canada wasn't conducive for my parents to live there, and why the healthcare system in America was more conducive for my parents because of my brother's condition. According to my dad's research, the United States was going to be better for my mother and the whole family as far as my brother's condition was concerned. And so they moved to the United States, luckily. And here we are today. You know. I wasn't even being thought of at the time. I was still in my daddy ball sack. But if I could just touch on just like their journey, it's not where, I know nowadays with technology and everything, we can see these things as like easy things, like, oh, I'm gonna just catch a flight to go to Atlanta and hang out with my homeboy. But we're talking of a time period where, like, even though inflation wasn't as it is what it is now, it was very difficult during those times, especially supporting a family to do what they were doing, so you kind of have to give grace and some level of understanding, even though you may not know what they were going through per se. You understand? To just let them, like, to have some level of understanding. Like, I will never know what it is to be a woman and to have a period, but I can give some level of grace to women to understand that, like, I've heard women talk about how painful this experience is, and I will never talk down on a woman when she's going through her moments that signify her womanhood. Forgive me.
It's okay. Yes, agreed. It was no easy thing. Like,
Correct.
the thought of moving to a different state stresses me out. Across the world, peak stress.
Insane.
By myself, peak stress.
Insane.
Peak
Insane.
stress. So that is, just to kind of set the tone of the types of people we're dealing with. They've been through
Mm-hmm.
very tedious journeys to get here. But one thing we know about our parents is that they set the bar high.
Very high.
There's no
Very high.
just trying. You have to, if you're not A plus number one, they don't want to hear it.
Very, very high. Very high.
I mean, what, like, do you feel like growing up you had pressure to succeed? Like, what type of pressure did your parents put on you to be successful?
I don't think they put controversial opinion. I know my dad is going to like really, really be upset with me about this, but if I'm being honest, because I know a lot of first gen people are going to listen to this, but I don't think my father put enough pressure on me as he should have. I think my father should have put his foot square up my ass, straight up. Straight up. I think by the time I was born, my father was too westernized.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was I'm not going to say he was too laid back, but I think the West does something to when it comes to raising kids that my dad wasn't really prepared for. He wasn't really equipped with, and he was more so equipped with the way he was used to raising his kids traditionally. And personally, during that era, it would have worked perfectly. But I think when I came along, he should have really, really, like, until I went off to college, put his foot square straight up my ass, like apply the pressure, and some of that can be attributed to maybe he should have had kids a little bit earlier. Maybe he was tired by the time I was born.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been that. It could attribute to that reason, but like, yeah, that's just like my thinking of it. But I don't think, in my personal opinion, and to give him a little bit of grace, I don't really think I lived up to what my parents really, really envisioned me to be. I don't think so. I think I fell way, way. And granted, I know that, like, I'm 30 years old. I'm turning 31 next month. I still got, like, personally, I think I still have 5 more years to really prove myself before they write me off.
Oh, to prove yourself.
Before they write me off.
What they like.
You know what I'm saying? Which is why you see the motherfucking apartment, right?
It's cute.
You know what I'm saying? You walk around this you got fish tank. You know what I'm saying? We got get the crib, okay?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're making your way. You're on your way.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like my father, or my parents in general, were kind of the opposite. I feel like I have the African parents that you cannot please them. Like, you can't. Nothing. They are not impressed. There is nothing you could do. You could go be an astronaut today. You should have did that.
Long time ago.
Me, instead, when I was your age, I was.
And I know your dad. He was like, I didn't pay you money.
What?
You're doing it for free.
My parents, I feel like my parents, and I feel like it's like a cultural thing where, like, sometimes African parents don't know how to, like, some African parents don't know how to be affectionate and, like, proud of you, like, expressive with being proud.
For sure.
They're just kind of like, do it again.
Yeah. Do it again.
Yeah, so I feel like that was my experience with, like, the expectation to succeed. It was like they didn't even have to say it.
Yeah.
You just find out what happens when you, like, violate that expectation or you don't meet. You would just find, you're like, oh, don't do that.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And I think, like, I've seen stuff on Twitter and, like, other social media platforms, TikTok, talking about, like, the psychological effects on a child who is like wants to please all the time, and how that shows
Yep,
up
yep,
when you're
yep,
an
yep,
adult. You know
yep,
what I
yep,
mean?
yep, yep.
Like you're constantly seeking like this validation and you're not getting
Correct,
it. So then as an
correct.
adult, it shows up
Yep,
in your partnerships because you're seeking that same validation. And it's
correct.
like it's just so crazy how like, things as a kid really follow you if you don't address
No,
it,
they
do
do,
something,
they do, they do.
and it still shows up in a relationship. So yeah, like I definitely had to evaluate like the people pleaser in me and like my need for validation. Even like, a lot of African kids, we were told to go to school, get degrees, and it's like sometimes we let those degrees be the validation of who we are,
Yeah,
and like when we let our accolades like be the validation of who we are, because that's what we used to use to get approval and validation from our parents. Like
correct, correct, correct.
that's what would get them kind of engaged just a little bit. My
I
parents.
don't blame him. I get him. I get it. Well, I don't blame the kids because you're looking
Hmm.
for validation. I don't blame the
Exactly.
kids.
you know but it's something that like definitely sneaks up on you, and for that reason, yeah, like I feel like the bar for me and my brothers, it was always high. They didn't have to say it, but they would be so loud in their disapproval. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll be so then you kind of understand like, okay, this is the box I can,
Exactly.
this is all the space you're gonna give
No,
me.
perfectly. Yeah, yeah, perfectly
Got it.
understood.
And then you kind of have to decide, does that work for you or
Mm-hmm.
doesn't it?
Exactly.
And what are you gonna do if it doesn't?
Uh huh. Uh
It,
huh.
and I feel like with African parents, like if you decide that it doesn't work for you
Yeah.
and you make the decision to, you know, still move forward in your choices, you have to stand on your choices.
Facts. Facts.
You got to stand on your choices with them.
Facts. Facts.
Yeah. So, in that same breath, do you feel like, I mean, how do you feel like African parents define success? Like what did, as you say, you don't feel like you met the standard of who your parents would have wanted you to be right now.
Yeah.
What is missing? Like what do you think their version of you in a successful position would look like?
I think that African parents, for the most part, define success. African parents, for the most part, define success from a position of outcomes, and
Mm,
I don't, I don't blame them at all. I think that's how success should be defined, from a position of outcomes, meaning that based on all of the decisions that you've made so far, what has been the outcome of those decisions? Like, what has been the final result? So, for example, right? I know you very well. Like, I have followed your life. One could look at Awa's life and be like, based on everything you have, I see fine gal in the background. You got the evergreen, the nice shades, the earrings, the nice. You feel me? So one could argue that it turned out pretty well for her. You know, that's just
mm-hmm.
like from this standpoint. From a, an African parent standpoint, it's like you can be doing things that are fulfilling to you as a kid, as a child, as a son, a daughter. But at the end of the day, can you support yourself? If you still have to call daddy, send me money. Mommy, send me money. Have you done anything fulfilling for them? At the end of the day, when will you be able to send your mom money or say, go and buy this thing for yourself? Or, you know what, I bought you a car, or I did this, or I did that. And
Mm-hmm.
not that like that is the ultimate goal for a parent. But at the end of the day, I think it's only fair that if I have spent this much time, if I have invested this much in you, and for the people that think that spending time with your kids and doing all this stuff for your kids ain't an investment, it's a motherfucking investment. I think it's an investment. If I have a son or a daughter tomorrow and they think that I'm going to just be out here, it's an investment. I want
But
to
the child didn't
collect.
choose to be here
I
though.
want
Like
to collect on my
the
investment.
child
I
didn't choose to
want
be
collect.
here.
I want
I
collect.
disagree.
Buy me a motor car. Buy me a motor car.
Guy.
And not just any motor car, Mercedes S550, where the body go like this, wham, buy me a big motor car. You feel me? It is an investment. And and personally, you should feel proud to say, you know what, I've made it to this level to buy my parents a car. But back to what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is a certain level of, if you do not communicate, and if you don't communicate as a with with your parents, there is going to be that level of disconnect. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where, for the most part, the problem lies. Maybe you could better expound upon it.
I feel like because they take care of their parents, like my father, I've known my entire life that my father sends money back home. You know what I mean?
Correct.
My father, and not just for his parents, he sends money back home. My parents, too, my mother too. They send money back home to take care of people.
Correct.
And that is also a measure of their success.
For
Like,
sure.
can you take care of people, right?
Yeah.
But it's like this is where like the cultural like difference with your own parents starts to show up,
Yeah.
because like in Western culture, like parents at the later years of their lives can sometimes be just left in a nursing home. Like sometimes like in Western culture there's just not as much care for like,
Yeah.
you know,
Nah, straight
people
up,
in their,
straight up, straight up,
it's such a conflicting culture, you know
straight
what I
up. Yeah,
mean? It's such a
straight up.
because it's so normalized to like not do that or to not feel obligated to do that. And then when you're coming from a culture where your parents do that for their parents, it's like, is that just the expectation? Are we gonna like
No, it's
you
funny.
know?
It's like, it's actually a trope where it's just like, you piss me off, I'm gonna leave you in a nursing home. That's what them. That's I'm not gonna say it, but that's what them other folk be saying.
And that's what they be doing too. But you know, to an extent, it's like when you I ask myself, have those people lost or did they lose feeling connected to that parent? Because when you love something, when you want something to thrive, you take care of it. That's the human thing to do,
Uh
right?
huh. Uh huh.
But when you don't anymore, or when you have lost a connection with that person, it's no it's no sweat off your back, you know? So
Correct. Correct.
I don't know. It's like as a parent, like what is the expectation? I don't know. As children, are we able to expect our parents to, I don't know, like almost earn and continue to nurture our wanting to take care of them? Like how do we have that conversation?
I
Cuz
think and we're discussing what expectations, right?
mhm.
I think for the
The
most
like,
part,
success in their eyes. Is it
I think I was having a conversation with my sister, right? And
mhm.
I know, people may disagree with this, but let's take two artists, right? You got Beyonce and you have any other artist down the block who sing.
Mhm.
But let's just say the any other artists down the block who sing, they really good artists. Like they're really good, but they just not Beyonce.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like on a as a whole, they just not Beyonce.
Mhm.
Beyonce isn't a good artist. She's fucking Beyonce. It's to call Beyonce a good artist is like doing her a disservice.
It's actually
You
rude.
know what I'm saying? To call Michael Jackson a great singer is it's a disservice. He's fucking Michael Jackson.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Beyonce falls in that same category. So unfortunately, we don't get to judge Beyonce on the same metric that we judge the same singer down the block. Now, the
Mhm.
same singer down the block, they win the Grammys, they go to the award shows, they do extremely well, and everybody knows about them, but they're just not Beyonce. And for that reason, we grade Beyonce at such a high caliber and such a high tier. She don't get no grace because she's Beyonce. We're not about to compare you to the person down the block. And I'm sorry, Beyonce, you might feel away, but this is just the name of the game. You're Beyonce.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nobody ever been created like you with this kind of voice and this kind of whatever you got going on, but you're just who you are. And we're going to have
So
this certain level of grandioseness about you. And that's just how I feel when it comes to like expectations, when it comes to African kids, which is just like, we put all of this effort into you. We will not accept anything less. Fucked up, but that's just the name of the game.
yeah, it sure is. But I'm
I know you
also
don't. I know this.
I don't agree. I cannot agree
I know,
because
and this is why we love each other so much.
absolutely, because we know how to disagree gracefully and respectfully.
Yeah.
But I just feel like there's just so many variables that popped up in the decision making of our parents that they did not take into account, and now we have to carry the consequences and burdens of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, I don't speak any of the languages that my parents speak.
Yeah.
I can understand Pidgin. My speaking Pidgin,
Uh-huh.
it sounds like chalkboard on nails in my own ears. But I can hear it, like I can hear it. I'm hearing
I
it.
got
But
you.
when I
I
speak
got
it,
you. I
something
got
like
you.
my tongue, I don't know what the issue is.
It's
Whatever.
you just got you just have to be in Cameroon for a good like 3
And I
months.
think so too. Like I think I need
Yeah.
to like be actively forced to like
That's all.
speak it.
That's all.
Whatever. My two parents, they speak two different languages. I don't speak either one of those languages.
Uh-huh.
So if I were to go to Cameroon and I'm in my father's village and they're speaking, yeah, I don't hear I don't hear anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I remember growing up, they always said speak English, no Pidgin, no Pidgin. Mind you, like my parents, my
And I'm gonna
aunties
tell
and
you where
them,
that
like
comes from.
yeah, my parents, my aunties and them, like everybody was always speaking Pidgin, but when we spoke, they said speak English, speak
Yeah.
English. No, nobody speak. So now you know it's got us a little stuck because
Yeah.
it's kind of harder to learn the language. And two, if they pass away, the language dies with them. The language dies with them. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so anyway, tell me more. Tell me more about where
Yeah,
this
so
comes
where that comes
from.
from is that so I went to boarding school in Cameroon, right? And me understanding boarding school, you see, your father went to Sase College,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe your mother went to Seka.
Mm-hmm.
Sase College, from what I know, Sase College to be, this is where like it's a very prestigious institution in Cameroon. This is where you get the most masculine men in in Cameroon.
Mm-hmm.
And Our Lady of Laws and Seka is where you get the most feminine women in Cameroon, right? So it is back in those days, typically if you were looking for a
Places like
husband,
Spelman and Morehouse.
you know, if you went to Sase College and you graduated, it was just automatically known that you were intelligent, you were a provider, and you had some sense of structure in your life, and the vice versa when it came to women. So in those institutions, you have to understand that what is typically spoken in the streets of Cameroon is Pidgin English in the Anglophone section, English and Pidgin English, and then in the Francophone sections you have French and what they call Français de rue or broken French, which is like Pidgin English for French people, right? Now, amongst the Anglophone people, we speak in Pidgin. However, when you get to boarding school and you're in an institution where you're studying, they punish you in school for speaking Pidgin to the point where that if you could speak extremely proper English, you were praised. So it was kind of like it's kind of like a
Like a status thing.
a status thing if you could speak good English. So then they kind of like outlaw speaking Pidgin in schools where it was almost like a status thing. So that is how like students from the school will pass that on to their kids and say, don't speak pidgin. In my school,
Where are the
I went to Seed of
kids?
Wisdom. Technically, you could not speak pidgin in school, even though we spoke it in the dorms or whatever, but amongst teachers, you could not speak pidgin in school. You had to speak English or French. Yeah, that's where it comes from. That's where it comes from.
Yeah, but man, it's one of those things that like I'm like,
I know, I
and
know,
a
I
lot of times
know.
people are like, why don't you just learn? And I'm like, there is something so significant about it being passed down to you and like ingrained in your life, you know?
No, there is, there is,
When you
there
could
is.
when you could speak to your grandmother in her native tongue because you grew up
Correct,
speaking
correct.
to her.
You
Like
know,
there is something so like deep about that because it literally only takes
now
one
that's
generation and
actually
that shit
my
down.
that's actually like my 2025 goal.
Mm.
Like I
Which
speak
is
my
what?
dialect, but I don't speak it well enough for my grandmother and I to have a conversation.
Mm.
You know, I can
Mm-hmm.
answer one or two things, but I think it's a big shame that I'm a Bangwa man and I cannot speak my own dialect. Though I was born here,
How do you think I feel?
but
Like you useless gross. Bruh.
yeah. Not her looking at the movie, not her looking at her producer like, what's going on, bro?
No, for real. Like it's just one of those things, and I think I always knew they meant well,
Uh-huh.
but the impact is the impact is pretty bad.
Mm,
Like
mm.
the impact is pretty
Did
bad,
they,
you
did,
know.
they- did they
So
encourage you to like learn?
no, like I they did not grow up speaking it too, and like we would go to like the Akum convention or the Bakun
Uh-huh.
convention, and it's like they're speaking the language, and people speak to us, and we're just like. And like they would kind of make fun of my dad and be like, aha, why don't you teach your kids? And he just didn't. And then like we just got older. Granted, when my brothers lived in Cameroon, they spoke everything. They spoke because they were being passed around everywhere. But they came
Really?
here, started going to school,
Wow.
and
And
the American school
that's
system
usually
has a
how it
huge
is,
effect on like speaking. Kids learn to speak in school.
for
You're
sure.
speaking you're speaking the language that's in school. So yeah, like those languages disappeared quickly. They used
Like
to speak French
even
everything.
like my French,
Mm-hmm.
I find myself when I'm speaking to people who speak French or talking to people who speak French, I will find myself like pausing. My brain is going through the archives looking for particular words. Or I'm just like, this used to come to me like this, but because I'm not speaking
Mm-hmm.
French every day, like I remember
Mm-hmm.
there was a point in time where like, you know how like you get mad and you be like, man, man, what the blah, blah, blah. There was a point in time in Cameroon where I would get mad and I would exclaim or express myself in French because I was speaking French every single day with francophone people in school. Where like even when I would all my insults or whatever, it would be in French. It would hit best not in English but in French.
Mm-hmm. English the weakest I am. I ain't gonna hold you. Have you seen that video? It's like this video of what languages sound like without the
Without the
words.
words,
And
oh
it's like
really English? It don't hit. It don't hit the way it's supposed to hit.
English just sounds like
Ah,
a white man. It just sounds like a white man. Like
oh
literally,
no.
I'm like, that's what we sound
Oh
like. Oh my
no.
goodness. No sauce, no drip, no
No
like
nothing.
nothing. Just but yeah, anyway.
Talk
So going more deeply into that topic about like communication barriers, I feel like I I know that people who speak multiple languages sometimes like your thoughts are in different languages or like your subconscious. Some people have an inner voice, some people don't. Did you
yeah.
know that some people don't have an inner voice?
You know
Do you have
what?
an inner voice? This is a
I
very
think
serious
people of
question.
our parent generation they're not getting that voice. The only inner voice that they have is that of God. Is that of God, their conscience. That is the only inner voice that they have. Are you doing bad or are you doing good? Outside of that, they're not getting that voice. They don't have any inner voice.
That's
Nobody.
not true.
You know,
Some of them don't,
I
but some
beg.
of them do.
I beg. They don't have inner voice. They will look at you suffering. They'll be like, you know what I was doing at your age.
What?
Do that thing.
Ruthless. Ruthless. But that's the thing. Like, it makes me wonder if they do, because your inner voice has emotion too. How your inner voice speaks to you is based on a lot of things. How you grew up, like, and they did not grow up in a warm, fuzzy, like, happy for them environment. It was corporal. Like
It
it
was.
was it
It
was,
was.
so maybe that's really all they know.
N-
That's why I'm like, maybe they do have an inner voice. Anyway,
mhm.
but I think like sometimes some of the issues and like difficulties with my parents, I never really thought about it, but there was a communication gap. Like there was a communication gap and there was a body language communication gap as well. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Because I never thought about the fact maybe my father is thinking in his language.
No, it could be. It could be.
maybe
Could be.
maybe when he's hearing me say something, or like I remember growing up, an issue I always had with my parents with them saying I was talking back. And it was literally just
Yeah.
me saying, I did not do
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
That was not me. I don't want to. No, thank you. Like, it was just me
Yeah.
expressing any
Yeah.
type of
Yeah.
negative no to them,
Yeah.
was me talking, and then things would just, and I'm like, that's a body language thing, that's a communication thing. Like,
Correct.
growing up,
Correct.
they didn't
Correct.
have that
Correct.
type of expression. So
Correct.
they're
Correct.
like,
Correct.
what?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this generational gap and communication gap definitely overlap, because their parents were a completely different. They're the first to do this,
Yeah.
to do this.
No, first ever. First.
you know
In my case, I think I grew up with a little bit of privilege. My father worked for the school system for about 30 something years.
Mhm.
My mother worked in healthcare, and due to my father's work in the school system, I remember very vividly. My dad would come home from work. We'll sit at the dinner table, and he would just tell us about his day at school. And
Mhm.
not without knowing my parents' conversations in the bedroom, I could figure out later on in life that after we would leave the dinner table and they would go to sleep, my dad would probably be having conversations with my mom in bed before they would sleep about his day at work. And that's probably how my mom kind of got to know how the dynamics between like adults and kids were in the school system,
Mhm.
because we're being raised in a traditional African household. You understand? So like my dad would tell us these things, and it was commonplace to myself, my sister, and my brother, but I'm pretty sure that my mom kind of got a lot of information through my dad, like about how the dynamics between kids and adults were going on in the school system that really, really kind of shaped how they raised us. So for the
Mhm.
most part, growing up, I wouldn't really say that like there was a communication issue, but I will say that when it came to it mostly came in developmental parts of my sister and myself. There was a point in time where I just started spiraling. Like I started
Crashing out.
spiraling. My dad couldn't handle me. My mom couldn't handle me. Like ain't nobody knew what the fuck was going on.
Mhm.
Extremely emotional, extremely like, and my dad just had to try his best. And for my sister, my, my I this is where I will say that staying in the United States really, really helped my parents, because I believe if they were in Cameroon, my sister would have had no hope. Straight
Yeah.
up, no hope. I guess during that time, around the time where like she was in middle school, they kind of like bonded together and really came together and kind of like helped my sister mold her into who she is today. She may
Mhm.
not agree, but this is what really happened. Her participating in soccer and my dad showing up to practice and just being there as a dad, encouraging her, pushing her to just excel and excel and excel. That is what I think was very, very pivotal for her development. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so I think we come from a place of privilege as far as communication goes. So I can't
Yeah.
really say that I really went through some crazy experiences as far as communication goes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that shows up too in how you communicate. Like you are a great communicator yourself.
You know.
And I think because you grew up in an environment where you could generally be understood, it shows up. These things matter.
Mhm.
My parents, I feel like we didn't really talk about things growing up. And I think this is a thing with a lot of like foreign
For
parents in
sure, for
general.
sure, for sure.
They don't
They
really
don't
do
talk. We don't
feelings.
talk. We don't
They
talk.
don't really talk about
Because who are you to talk?
things. You're the child.
Who are you to even say you want to get opinion?
Yeah. You pay
You
bills.
know, you know.
But as a kid, like you are a person. Like you have feelings, you have experiences, but they and to a lot of our parents, like something that I think a lot of immigrant children can relate to is like how our parents work. Because sometimes you're just not seeing your parent. You're in school. Like I remember my mom worked at night. We
Yeah.
would be in school during the day. We come home, she's like around, she's asleep for like right when she picks us up from school, takes us home, she goes to sleep. Then around like 7 p.m., my dad gets home, wakes her up, she starts getting ready. We saw her for like an hour. She's getting ready to go to work for years. So we didn't really like see her.
Can I
Same with my dad. Like my dad has had the same schedule since I was a kid. So
exactly?
but we saw him on the
And
weekends.
and
But
and, and
like
blessings to him. Blessings to him.
not
Here
the
you
play. Like
are
not, my issue
with
was
the
not the
fine girl
working,
background.
but a lot of I know a lot of like my friends' parents, like growing up, like people's parents who worked in like healthcare industries,
Yeah.
working all the time.
And can I say something?
Yeah.
To my dear African people out there, specifically the parents, delay on buying that very, very, very big home and spend more time in that apartment, in that condo, whatever, wherever you're staying, to save your money and raise your kids, because it's too early for you to move into that big house. What usually happens when you move into that big house is that your husband has to work extra hours, the wife has to work extra hours to meet up with that mortgage. And so for that reason, you neglect your children, and the streets raise your kids, the society raises your kids, and you cannot spend time with your kids. So please, this point is very, very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Spend more time with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Back to our regular schedule program.
No, but seriously, spend more and like getting to know your kids better when they're still
Correct.
kids,
Yes.
when their minds are still like blossoming. Because such a small, I feel like as African kids, I never really expected a lot of like intimacy with my parents necessarily. Like I didn't need to have like super deep experiences with them, but
Mhm.
I just needed them to co-sign that I was doing what I needed to be doing.
Correct. Correct.
They just had no reaction. I was like, you're just not gonna. Every now and then, I think the big milestones, but like, I don't think any of my talents, like, that's one thing I will say about other Black cultures. I feel like other Black cultures, the parents invest in their children's talents.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Our parents are very focused on education, which is not a problem.
Yeah.
Not a problem. But especially when you choose to move your child to a new country, part of seeing the full potential of your child is investing in getting to know them and actually putting resources behind things that they're good at,
Correct.
seeing how far it could go.
You know, I'm very conflicted when it comes to those when it comes to like that, because
Hmm.
again, I believe most African parents are results driven. So it's like, okay, if I go put my money for something, if I'm going to put my money into something, I need what they will refer as a return on investment.
But your child is not property. Your child is a person.
My child show is
Your child,
property.
your child belongs to you legally, because you take care of them. But your child did not choose to be here. You can't control who your child is going to become. Granted, there should be boundaries, there should be limitations, but I feel like looking at it as a return on investment is what builds the pressure, and then the pressure just, you know, versus, at least if you're gonna put pressure on something, like I look at someone like Simone Biles, like a child like Simone Biles. I don't know Simone Biles' whole story, but in the commercial that Beyonce did with her, y'all saw that?
Yeah, for sure.
In
For sure. For sure.
in the commercial that Beyonce did with her, she was a little baby doing them flips. She was a little baby Simone flipping around. And I remember, and these things, like, I don't want to.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't want to make it seem like it's just an easy thing to pay for your child to go to gymnastics. Like I said, my parents had a grip of kids, a football team. I don't know how much is on a football team, but I think 5 kids is a lot. Anyway, but I feel like, showing up to things, showing up to like your kids' debate competition.
I agree.
Showing up to your daughter's cheerleading thing, pulling up to one of your son's concerts. God forbid.
For sure.
But just like, I feel like as African children, we do have that grace of like understanding this is not your culture. We get that. Like we understand. I don't expect full understanding across the board of like the things I'm interested in to translate to my parents. I'm just But at the least bit, I want them to at least, acknowledge and recognize this part of me, show up to something. Just,
correct.
And
the thing is, like, I think for the most part, like, if you, again, I may be speaking from a place of privilege, but I think for the most part, if it's school related, where I think they have an issue is post academia.
What do you mean?
Post academia, as in after school, meaning like when you have completed high school or college, and you want me to show up to the studio for your recording session with you and your homies. That's where, or you want me to listen to the music that you and your homeboy just recorded. It's not that I don't think that it's not going to work out. It's that, where have you gone with this music? Who have you met? What things are happening right now? Word to the wise, if you're an African trying to record music or do anything in the bohemian kind of lifestyle, do not come to your African parent without results. Let me know that there's something on the pathway that money will touch your hand like this.
This is deep in you.
It's deep in me. Look, I am a rapper. I'm a rapper.
You are a rapper.
I know my father will never accept me as solely a rapper in this world, and I accept. I accept it. And let me have a child today. God forbid. God forbid you gonna go to school. You could be a singer, you could be a rapper, but you gonna go to school and do something.
You're gonna
do something. It may not be school, but I need to be able to see you do something constructive consistently.
Right.
Consistently. Right. Where I could look at it
and
be like,
a goal, an end goal.
You feel me? Where I could look and be like, okay, all right, little nigga, all right, little ma'am.
You got the paperwork. Yeah.
You feel me? Look, I can get a Benz out of this.
They're making sure you're collecting retirement money.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like the older my parents get, like their communication style, like the differences in our communication style, I feel like over time too, as I've gotten older and I've gotten more comfortable being myself around them, I just, I'm like, I'm your kid.
Correct.
I'm your kid. So we're going to talk. We're going to joke and banter here and there. We're going to have the moments that we can have for certain. Like my grandmother, the conversations be 0.2 seconds.
Yeah, I know.
I'm good.
It's very black and white.
How is school? I'm good. How is good? Okay,
For me
good.
too. For me too.
there's a whole like I don't think that I'll ever have any conversations with like my grandmother. My grandfather, he's interesting. He sends me stuff. He be on WhatsApp sending me paragraphs of Bible verses, and
Stop,
I be
for
reading
real?
them. Yeah, he do. And I'd be like, oh, he sent me something so good. It was really long, but it was something about like how your character is the most important thing about you, but like the evidence to why that is
He
true, it
hits you
was
with
really
the,
good.
he hits you with the, as I'm reading this book by Chinua Achebe, I'm understanding that I want to communicate with you that your character is something that's how he hits you with it.
What?
And you were
It was
like, the blessings.
the blessings. The blessings. But like that communication barrier, I know that if it's already, if I can feel it with my parents, I will assume that with my extended family, it might be even worse, and that it bothers me. I'm not gonna lie, like it bothers me,
Mhm.
but I'm like, we family, so we're just gonna have to hug it out.
Correct,
Sorry.
correct. And here's the thing, worst comes to the worst. So, like, for example, when I want to communicate with my grandmother, and there are really some things that I really want to say, but I can't say, I call my brother, my eldest brother, to help me.
Hmm.
And un- unfortunately for me, when my brother was born, the first language he learned was our language before he
Hmm.
learned English, because my grandmother well, helped raise him at the time. So that's where he beats us. But yeah, I be calling him like, all right, nigga, like pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up. He'll be like, all right, nigga, I'm trying to, he like Nigerian movies. I'm watching a movie right now. So what's up? My grandmother will be there. I'll be like, yo, say this, 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 this. I need her to know and say it with passion, because like I need her to know how serious I am. And he would say
Right.
it. He would say it too. I respect it. He would say it too. But
Mhm.
to your point, like I understand what you mean.
Yeah, it's I don't know how other first gens like feel about it. I would love to hear some stuff in the comment about experiences, the varied experiences of, do you speak your parents' language? Or can you hear it? What are the communication barriers that you experience with your parents, with your family?
Mhm.
I would love to hear more about this conversation in the comment section. But yeah, I definitely feel it. When I was a kid, it really didn't bother me because I was like, that's grown folk talking anyways. But now that I'm an adult, I'm like, oh, that's a little. Babies are speaking, I come spitting, I come around my head. I'm just like, I don't got nothing to say.
So let me ask you.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously, you and I know you've done well for yourself.
Thank
You know what
you.
I'm saying, you're living in the better parts of town with a better with a better vehicle.
Don't say all that now. Don't be lying to these people now.
I'm saying, with a better vehicle, nice parts of town. By the way, she has high ceilings, people.
I'll pay for
You
them.
know what I'm saying? With the
I
little
feel them
spiral,
ceilings
with
in
the
the
little
rent.
spiral upstairs.
I feel every bit of it in the
You know
rent.
what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my question now becomes, do you feel some amount of dishonor or not, or some type of conflict when it comes to paving your own path as a first gen person? Are you paving your own path? How do you feel about it?
I think I am paving my own path.
Uh-huh.
I think that as a first gen, you have to accept the relationship you have with your parents and
Mhm.
just understand that either you show up as the version of them that they want you to be, or you don't.
Okay.
And if you don't, it'll look like dishonor, even if the result is good in the end.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It'll still be like, but you didn't do it our way.
Yeah.
So it'll look like dishonor anyway. So for me, I have just found that I would rather just do it the way that works for me and risk the potential dishonor, because the disconnect was already like just the
He
disconnect
said,
was kind of already
y'all not gonna
there.
fuck with me anyway, so it is what it is. It is what it
Like
is.
I really take that language thing personal. So I'm like, okay, so you clearly don't want to talk to me. So I'm just gonna do my thing. And but the thing is, like, I feel like sometimes I think other Cameroonians, especially,
Yeah.
may like they kind of shit talk when I say I don't speak my parents' languages. Oh, the backlash,
Yeah, but
the
here's the thing, like
backlash.
it be capped though, because it's like I would say this is very significant to like Cameroonians.
Mm.
Majority of Ghanaians that I meet, they
Right,
speak their language right. Majority
right.
of Nigerians, Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, they speak their dialects. They speak it. It's usually Cameroonians across all tribes that they
Hmm.
don't really speak their dialect, right? So it's not like, so when you come and try to like shit on me for not speaking my dialect, a lot of times the person shitting on you don't even know how to speak his dialect the way that his father speaks it or the way his mom speaks it. So it's
Hmm.
just like, bro, relax, get up on
Yeah,
out of
I
here.
just feel like there's nothing I could have done about that. I can't teach myself the
You
language,
know?
so.
And you were in a better situation. You grew up there. I grew up here. Why don't you
Hmm.
know it?
Exactly.
There are people
So
born in Fontem today, in Bangwa
who don't speak
today,
it?
who don't speak Bangwa, but people born in the United States today that speak Bangwa, square that
Yeah.
for me.
You know?
You know?
So my parents were the only two. I mean, and my auntie too, like a little bit of sprinkles of family here and there, but they really did not speak it around us like that conversationally. Anyway, only my dad is talking on the phone with his
You
homies,
feel me? You hear
and he
you
wanna
you start hearing him talk. You be like, ah, damn.
talking loud, loud, talking loud on the phone with his homies. Yeah, but it does hit a nerve for me because it's like, dang, it's such an obvious
Yeah.
disconnect. It's such an obvious disconnect. Even like listening to music, I can't
Yeah.
even understand.
I get you. I get you. I get you. I get you.
So
I get you. I get
something I've definitely had to grapple
a privilege of
with.
mine. A privilege of mine.
Uh, a wonderful one, though. A wonderful one. A wonderful one. So that being said, this kind of leads into my next question, about paving your own path. Like, do you feel like you have made a decision to forge your own path as a first gen, even though it may go against? Actually, do you think that the way that you've chosen to go on your journey, on your path, goes against the expectations that your parents have for you now? And if so, are you okay with that being part of your journey to make your own path, make your own lane?
I would say this is going to be a very nuanced answer, but I think I haven't I haven't done anything to honor, my parents in the way I think that they should be honored, because they really really, worked really really hard. And the reason why I say that is because like I study stats, statistics,
Mhm.
and I look around me and I will say that I'm extremely privileged. Extremely, extremely privileged. I work extremely very hard, but I'm
Mhm.
extremely privileged. I benefit from nepotism. Straight up. I benefit from nepotism, though I work very hard, but everything around me is afforded through the hard work of my parents, primarily, before before my own hard work. So I benefit from nepotism. That being said, I think that until I can surpass what my parents have done, then I really haven't done anything.
Mhm.
And as harsh as that may sound, but if they had less than me and were
Mhm.
able to do it up until this point, then simple logic would beg to say, I, you have more resources, more this, more that. Given, yeah, the times are different, but still, What are you able to do with what you have so far? And that's just the way I look at it. So I will be satisfied knowing that before my parents, God forbid, they leave this earth, I'm able to do 2, 3, 4, 5 times what they did. Then I will say that, I've done something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, for me,
Hey, don't change the fact that I'm still gonna be outside getting these tables, enjoying myself. I go to Shayo. So yes.
oh, I will never stop. I will never stop.
Not you
For
like this,
me,
you will never stop. You gonna still catch these flights.
oh, to my last day, to my last
And this is
day.
why I love you
Oh.
so much.
Me, I have accepted the fact that my parents and I are very different.
Uh-huh.
We're very different. We have very different views.
Mhm.
I think we have similar, if not the same values.
Mhm.
I think my parents passed on a very strong value system to me. Like certain things just don't move me because my parents taught me not to be moved. Like,
Yeah.
stand on something,
Mhm.
They definitely gave me that. But when it comes to, like how life should be lived, my parents they live a very strict life.
Strict structured.
Hey,
I wake up at 9 o'clock and 9:02.
I go to bed at 9 o'clock and not 9:02.
You know?
And me, I'm much less structured,
Mhm.
and in my like just how I believe people and even children, how children should be treated, just how I have to show up as their child. We conflict in many ways. We
Mhm.
really do. But because of my strong value system, I feel like I can recognize that my parents poured a lot into me for sure. Like my parents, we have our differences for sure.
Mhm.
But like I am really a product of them. I truly am.
Mhm.
I'm like, I got that dog in
You
me.
got you got
Just
you do. You do. You do.
I got that dog in me. Y'all gave me that. I appreciate that. So, I'm okay. Like I had to defy them a lot. And I always tell like my younger cousins, whatever, especially the girls, me, I'm a middle child. I'm the eldest African daughter, and I'm the only
Yeah,
girl.
yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
You cannot bully me.
yeah.
You cannot tell me
Yes,
anything,
sir.
okay?
Yes,
So
sir.
when I'm talking to the younger girls, like, and like the aunties are saying, oh, go talk to they're thinking I'm gonna tell them like wear your skirts
Well,
to
you,
your
you know what
feet,
I'm saying?
don't drink.
Don't drink or whatever. You gonna be like, look,
Look,
get fucked
girl.
up.
I ain't gonna say all that now. I'm not gonna say. I'm just gonna say, live your life. Live your life. Don't be stupid.
Don't be
Don't be dumb.
stupid.
Don't be dumb.
These are the
Okay.
things. Another one.
Because for the girls, I'm like I feel like my parents gave me that dog in me. I'm always happy to pass that on to my younger generation
Where you think
girls.
that dog
Even
came
the
from?
ah, my parents are just very disciplined. Like that's one thing that they really like passed down to me and my siblings is like
Hmm.
discipline, structure, repetition. Like I'm able
Nah, they
to be
pass
in
that.
something for the long haul.
They pass it down to you real hard because the way you
They
be.
sure did.
By the way, off the record, the way our hits me up about these episodes and the edits, like a drill sergeant, and I appreciate it, and that's how I know she come from structure.
Oh, structure. Like,
The man that has to
granted.
marry you.
Look,
Mm,
I don't like chaos, please. I don't like
the man that
chaos.
has to marry
Because
you, I have to collect a
hey.
percentage of that bride price. I have to collect. I have to collect.
Oh my goodness. No, like my parents, like they are very disciplined people. I've seen them achieve and like stick to things. And my father, all of our fathers have houses that they're building in their country. When I
Yeah.
see videos of this house, I'm like, you really?
Did
You was
this
here
shit.
sending you really?
You know,
Stick to it.
you just see
You gotta stick to things.
big buildings.
You know, you gotta stick to things, and that's what gave me that dog in me. I'm able to stick to things. So I'm gonna pass that down to my children. That's in me.
Facts.
Thank you, parents. Appreciate that. You know, and yeah, that's all I had.
It makes sense.
Good talk. Anyway, thank you all for joining us this episode.
Thank you so
Hopefully, you
much.
got something
Thank you
out
so
of it.
much.
Yeah. Please put some comments in the description. Tell us your experiences with your parents. Can you relate to anything that we shared about our parents? We would love to know. Anything else from you, Tazi?
I just want to say, I love the puff.
Oh,
I love the puff. It looked good. It looked good. It looked good. It
this is
looked
like my
good.
signature.
No, it looks
Yeah.
nice. It looks nice. It looks nice. It looks
Thank
nice.
you.
It looks nice. The puff, the earrings, the glasses, the white teeth. It goes. It goes. It goes.
Thank you. And on that note, bye.
You want to see Kelele? Roll up my weed, let me be Kelele. As I spend my money.